the MCPS's responsibility, and then part of it is the town's responsibility. Like,
Right.
everything across the street is the town.
I see.
And then everything on that side is MCPS.
Yeah, I think Jim did a good job.
And my understanding is that they are in process of addressing it, right? Like Jim said that
Yeah.
this town staff have a plan for the part that's the town side, and that they've already spoken to MCPS and it's on their radar.
Right.
Is that, I don't know, do you have any other updates on that?
I saw a note from Mark Carruthers just thanking Jim and Niles, because Niles had, I think, had already gone out there.
Yeah.
And that, I think he sees there's progress being made, so that's good.
Okay, good.
One observation I would have, I mentioned it here in media observations, but you guys didn't see all this, but there was a lot of back and forth with Chris Cram, who's the public relations director for MCPS, and he didn't want to have any media at the event.
Why?
Well, you'd think you would, because that's
Yeah, you're
all the
opening
bad
up
media
is like-
MCPS got.
Yeah, why would they not?
Well, I think Mark, and understandably, Mark was focused, and he should be, on how do we make this day, because it's a whole new traffic for the kids, it's a whole new, the buses are going to be new, all that's going to be new.
Yeah.
He was
Didn't
worried
want
about,
media highlighting the like.
he was more worried about too many people there from the media, for example, coming in and maybe getting in the way. And, you know, I think he had a view that the media was going to go to the kids and interview them. What do you think at school today? And, you know, that wasn't what they were going to do. They just wanted to show the kids coming in. It was a picture, you know, they wanted.
Yeah,
So,
it's a photo op.
yeah, so what ended up happening was I said to Mark, look, I know the two media people, Fran Murphy from MyMC Media, and I know the MoCo, her name is Elia, from MoCo 350 and 60, and I know they're not going to do that. They want to just be outside mostly and just have some footage that they can show that night in their media throne. And that's all they did. And he was, afterwards, he sent me this note saying, this media in MoCo 360 was great. So,
Yeah.
so it all worked out
That's,
great
wow.
in the end.
Okay.
But
Good.
I also understand why he was worried about it. I don't understand Chris. I mean, he's a media guy. You
I'm like,
think
that's
he'd
their
wanna get-
job is
He'd want to find. If I was
find
him,
the
I'd have said,
angle
"You
and-
want good media? We want good media. I'll work on making sure it's done the right way. Don't worry. I'll
Yeah.
take care of it."
Right,
Yeah,
So why that didn't happen, I don't know. But it did come out good in the end, I thought.
yeah, good.
On the pool bubble, I got an email back from the guy who's the coach up there, who's runs the swimming and all that. He's looking at April 30th now, so I'll let you know
Okay.
when that's set up. And he's prepared to talk about how much it costs to run it and
Perfect.
all that kind of
Okay.
stuff. So,
How it works.
yeah.
Cool.
One thing you may not be too aware of, I just want to make sure and put it on your radar screen. I was talking to, some months ago, I was talking to Knight Kiplinger about the White's Ferry situation. And since he's with HMD, we started kind of talking about ferries generally and how they worked on the Potomac River back in the day when, you know, the C&O Canal was still operating and all that. And so we came up with this idea of, and it's frankly partly history and teaching people out here about the history of the ferries.
Yeah.
But also, it's an opportunity to talk about Waits Ferry again.
Right, I was gonna say, it gives us another opportunity.
Not that
to
we're,
highlight.
not that that's the primary reason. But, so Ralph Buglas, who's a really great historian, is putting together a slide presentation that's basically looking at the history of ferries in the Montgomery County segment of the C&O Canal, and also how they worked with the C&O Canal, and you know how the men who set up, like the E.V. White, who ran White's Ferry back in the day, actually built granaries there and all that kind of stuff. How that all worked. He hasn't got it finished yet, but the idea is to have some kind of event probably in early June. So again, it's partly helping people out here kind of get an understanding of what ferries mean to this area and why they contributed to our agricultural sector and all that. But also, frankly, to say White's Ferry was the last living history example of that, and we should do something about it. So more to come on that, but Ralph's already got a lot of good material together. I've seen his initial ideas, and they're really good.
And I request that you ensure that there is, that he's coming from a, I'm going to call it an equity lens, that that he acknowledges who the land belonged to before it was co-opted. Like, I think it would be really great for him to talk about the peoples who were using the Potomac River to transport goods, the indigenous peoples, before they became part of the, American economy. And also the Black laborers who were instrumental in building the canals. So just make sure that it doesn't present a whitewashed version of the canals, like everything's great and beautiful, and it didn't also cause harm or have consequences or is part of the product of the time. Like, I get that, but like, maybe even working with like Christine Ray.
So a couple of things here that might actually help with that, and the idea is to have the presentation and then have a panel that would react to it.
Love that.
So we could put Christine on there. Also, there's a woman, I've forgotten her name now, but I've been corresponding with her, who is at the University of Maryland, who's done a lot of research about African-American farmers in the ag reserve and what they contributed to the growth of the agricultural economy here.
Right.
And I think she's prepared to speak, so she could be on that.
The Sugarland Project,
Yeah.
Getting a diverse perspective, especially if we're talking about E.B. White, let's make
Yeah.
sure that we're also getting some other perspectives on there.
Yeah, and there's
Of all the
actually-
different ways that people were contributing to, commerce across the river.
There's actually, believe it or not, there were, at one time, 3 ferries operating in that expanse. So
Wow.
Edwards Ferry was more important in some ways than White's Ferry for a time. Spinks Ferry, which is up
Oh, I was
near-
going to say, I could think of Edwards and White's Ferry.
Right.
I've never
Spinks
heard
Ferry
of
is
it.
north of there. It was up pretty much where the power plant is. And it operated too at the same time. And there's another ferry that, to your point, was actually managed and operated by an African-American. And Ralph didn't even know that. We found this, you've heard of Goose Creek or not, but it's actually across the river from where Edwards Ferry is. There's a creek there that was actually, they built locks on it too, so that you could take
Interesting.
traffic into Leesburg from the Potomac, and an African-American ran that. So there is.
I didn't know that at all.
And I didn't know either until I saw this article in a Leesburg newspaper that talked about it. So
Okay.
he's been doing research on that.
Yeah.
What is Ralph's last name?
Pardon me?
What's Ralph's last name?
Buglass, Buglass.
Oh, I wrote Douglas.
He actually did, to your point, Sarah, he did a really excellent, and I'll send you the link to it,
Yeah.
analysis for the school system of all of the schools in Montgomery County that are named after people who had slaves.
Yeah.
And he did a presentation for MCPS, partly because the parents, the way it works is the parents in that school have to sign a petition, and there have to be, I forgot how many, but a certain number, saying we want to have a petition to consider changing the name of the school.
So is he the
And
guy who
did
did
that
the
for that
one
reason,
here
so
for
they
the
had it.
John Poole Middle School?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I remember we had a
He was in
conversation
it.
about that, but I don't ever
Yeah, I
remember what
went to
ended up.
John Poole
happening
was
to
in it. It was one of the schools he talked about.
Yeah.
Wooden, Dr. Wooden is a famous doctor, but he was also a big slave owner. Magruder, a slave owner. Which, not unusual in those days. Most of the rich, wealthy white men were slave owners.
Right, right.
So, anyway, those are good points. But we're going to have a panel, the idea. So he will speak, and then we'll have a panel to discuss it, and we can certainly work these kinds of things into it. And I've already talked to this, again, I can't remember her name, of this University of Maryland professor, and she's done some really good work on African Americans and how the farming community out here work from their perspective. So, but those are good points.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
On the Community Health Improvement Project, I think you're all aware of it. I think they've already got at least 17 people signed up, which is good, and that's on the
It's
18th.
fantastic.
So
Good.
that should be an interesting night, I think, and good. And there's
They
also.
can only take 20, so.
Yeah,
like,
it
it's
can only
almost-
take 20.
It's almost full.
There's actually, on the information I sent you, there's a link on there for a Survey Monkey that you can actually do ahead of time if you want to. So I'll send it to you again if you didn't see it, but
I
there's.
signed up on the Survey Monkey.
Oh, you did? Well, there's actually a Survey Monkey link. You may not have seen it below in the email. There's a whole bunch of different languages, versions of it. One of them is a Survey Monkey for your input before the event, if you want to do it.
Oh.
So I'll
okay.
send that
Yeah, I
again
didn't
if you
see
want
that.
to, if you want to do it.
If it's in that email, I can pull up that.
Okay.
email.
Yeah, it's farther down.
Okay.
So should we sign up for this, or are we taking space away from somebody in the community coming?
If there's somebody, you mean, are they going to make a presentation?
I mean, for this community forum, like, should I go ahead and sign up?
Yeah,
to go,
I think
or
there's
is
still
that
enough
taking a
room.
spot from
If there isn't, if they signed up, now they'll tell you that there's 20 and that's the max.
But is it better for, like,
No,
Not to
the
go
last
for
time I
somebody
looked, there was
else.
only 17, so I think we've actually got, and we
And
sent
I'm
it
already
out.
signed up.
okay.
Yeah, and we sent it out to a lot of people like Amar and
Okay.
Katie and, yeah, Dr. Meg Oberman, she's in
Is this in the
UPN.
last couple of days you sent it? I somehow missed this one.
Yeah.
I'll go back and find it.
I can resend it.
Okay, I'll find it, but I shouldn't have to do that.
And then, so finally, I just wanted to give you a quick, I haven't done a lot on this yet, but the listening session, we're scheduling for May 16th. What I thought I'd do for next steps, and you guys can tell me if you had other ideas, is to send out, I have a list of 50 community groups that I've had that I use to send out just information on what we're doing.
Okay.
I'll send you that, and if you want to add anybody to it that we should contact, and certainly if you want to contact anybody I already know, and you can do that too, but, and then we can send an invitation out and tell them what the purpose of it is and invite them to come. And we can do Zoom
Post on
that way too.
Facebook You know, just if a regular resident wants to come,
Yeah, that's fine too.
yeah.
And then we can do Zoom too, if somebody wants to do, can't come live, they can certainly do via Zoom. But more to come on that, but I think, and one of the reasons we do on the 16th, that's not where our normal meeting is, but as I said in my email to you, HMD is having a huge, their annual fundraiser, their big dinner, but they're also doing an award for Billy
Yeah.
Willard that night, so it's, and pretty significant, so I thought it was just
So May 9th is the
HMD
fundraiser. So
fundraiser.
instead of having our regular fair access committee, we're gonna meet on the 16th.
Right. And Niles is write that down, and so we'll be all set.
Okay.
I am also going to the HMD fundraiser.
Good. Yeah, the Billy story is kind of interesting. Billy was inducted into the Agricultural Hall of Fame.
No,
State.
that's so crazy that
And
nobody in
nobody
the
from
town
here was
knew.
invited. And
We
I
didn't know
happened to
anything
see
about
it. I happened to see it on I think it was the Baltimore Sun or something, had an article about it. And I said, what the heck? I didn't know about that. So I checked with Bob Sissel, who would know, you know.
Yeah.
He said, what?
He didn't
Billy
know
was-
either?
Yeah, he said Billy
Wow.
was indicted. I said, yeah, he was inducted.
What?
Well, you know, Billy is a very unassuming,
Modest
humble
guy.
guy. He doesn't go
Say
out and say, hey,
anything.
this got this
But
award.
that's crazy.
But Bob didn't even know about it. So,
Well, okay, I don't feel so bad. If Bob
Yeah.
didn't even know about it, then I
so
don't
that's why we
feel as
pushed
bad.
the county council to say, you should do something, and this is crazy. So
Yeah.
that's what this is all about.
Okay,
They're
good.
going to-
Good. And also, in the future, state,
Yeah,
come on.
since it is our area, it might be nice to invite some of us.
Yeah, or at least let us
But
know what you're
The commissioners
doing.
of Poolesville, you'd think would be on the list,
right.
but weird.
Crazy.
The BOE debate, so I'll just give you a status on that. I've been checking with the PTA, so they're co-sponsoring it with us, the high school PTA. The other two PTA, the elementary school PTAs and the JPMS just said, you know, they don't want to have their name on it, but they can't really help because they're just too stretched. So, but
Okay.
the PTA for the high school will be.
What about that one blogger? Is he also?
He's got his event on the 15th.
Oh, so he's just
So
doing a different.
after he
event.
heard our debate, he said, I'm not going to try to horn in you guys. I'll do it
Okay.
on the 15th. So his is on the 15th.
Okay. And his is like an online one.
No, he's doing it at the county council office building, believe it or not. I don't know how he
you
got the office.
serious?
Yeah, he's got the hearing room. I don't know how he did it, but he does. But we have 13 people attending, which is,
Yeah.
there's only, no, I'm sorry, 12. 12, when we got all three incumbents, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And so I sent you a format. I just thought, I was going to have audience questions, but I'm thinking it's going to take.
These are good questions.
You're
And
right.
and I think, and the PTA's contributed to those questions, so I think we're in good shape.
And they're broad, I mean, you know, even if an audience member's very specific question isn't asked.
So here's a question. Do you want each person, I mean, because there's 12 candidates.
Yeah.
Do you want to give each person the same question answer? Or do you want to have it be like, I don't know, ask them, do you want to direct questions at people specifically?
I
We
mean,
do it for the last one. Like, I think we asked each person a
That's gonna
single
start to
question
get
that
so
they
get
get
redundant.
chance
Yeah,
to
you can't.
rebuttal, or,
Yeah.
I think you
then we
plan
do
ahead
that
to
to
make
speed it up because we had so many people.
That
Yeah.
I
everybody
think for the,
tap into everybody a certain number.
Yeah, because I agree. I don't think you should ask
Yeah.
everybody the same questions. That will take way too long.
it's gonna get
And it'll be
redundant.
redundant. People are gonna have the same answers. I think each person needs an opportunity to kind of showcase who they are. And some of these, if they're new, they're not gonna give great answers anyways, because they can't speak to their past decisions and their past experience. So I kind of think you should look at the questions and maybe choose like 3 or 4 people or 3 or 4 of the candidates that you want to like target with each question so that everybody gets a chance to answer 1 or 2 questions, but that we're not going down this list of everybody answering the same
And you
question.
could still say, you know,
before we move on to the next question, if there's anybody who has, anything else to
Totally,
add,
like, yes.
please feel free, because there may be something where somebody has some
Like,
new
hey,
and
no one
interesting
else
point.
covered this, I wanna
But
make
you could
sure.
imagine, getting to the seventh person, and they're all kind of saying the same.
Right.
Yeah, it's probably going to happen. On the other hand, I think the trouble is going to be that almost all of them are going to want to weigh in on all the questions.
Yep.
They will.
Really?
Right.
Well, partly because, especially the non-incumbents, they don't get a chance to say anything.
Right, you want to speak.
So they're not going to want to not answer every question. I'm pretty sure that's going to be the case. What I try to do to make it, to vary it though, is to make sure that we don't start out, so you always start out with a different person so that
Oh, right.
that they're not always prepared to answer. Because what happens a lot of times, if you go the same direction all the time,
yeah.
the last person has a lot of time to prepare and rebut somebody. The other thing we do is to make sure that if somebody
Or
mentions
there's
somebody.
nothing new to cover because everybody else has already.
Yeah.
They sound like they're repeating the last 6 people.
And what I found in past debates too that happens is they say, I agree with what everybody said, but let me move to another. And that's fine if they want to say, I got another point that I think's important.
Yeah.
I mean, it's their,
Yep.
it's their forum. If they want, how they want to impress people is up to them.
Okay.
The other thing we do too, though, is if somebody says something specifically about another candidate, and I know these people are doing that now, they're attacking somebody else, I give the other person 30 seconds to say, well, you were mentioned specifically, you get 30 seconds to rebut it.
That sounds good.
So there's actually a debate, and there will be 2 of these candidates. There's one, it has to do, her primary issue is parental input and control, so the whole issue whether parents should have an ability to veto
out
what
of
their
sex
kid,
ed
opt
or-
out, or the library books issue.
Is she for opting out, or?
She's very much, but the parents are in control, and she's attacked already Lynn
they're
Harris
trained
in one of the
educators.
debates, big time. It was pretty strong, so.
With-
And that's not bad, because people need to hear.
Yeah, for sure. Everyone needs
Which
to
person
talk
is
it
that?
through.
Her name was Beth Mandel, so I don't know if she's definitely said she's coming, so, and I'm sure she will.
I mean, there's a difference between parents saying nobody in the library should be allowed to read this book versus speaking to your own child and saying, yeah, I'm not comfortable with you reading that.
Right.
Interesting.
I just talked to Niles, and we can do a YouTube of it using the town's account. I just got to go and get the technology sorted out, but I think we can do that. So it will be on YouTube, which is good too, so that the town can watch it. And the one thing I will need is some help is I'd like to have greeters there that night to just, and I've got pamphlets that we use
Yeah,
at the
I'll be-
breakfast.
I'll
we
be a
can hand
greeter,
them
I'll
out
be
to
there.
people. Would be great. And the second thing is we're going to need a timer. And the way I did it before, is I just had signs, so you didn't have to do anything, or you didn't have a sound
You
maker.
just hold it up and be like 30
Yeah, say,
seconds or something.
basically, there's 30 seconds before their end, and then there's stop. That's it. So they knew they got 30 seconds after you hold up.
Whatever you need.
I was gonna say,
Yeah,
we'll be
whatever.
there, so just give us assignments.
Okay.
So
But other
the
than that, I think we're in pretty good shape.
I just want to make sure I've got the final date is the,
The 24th, and it's at 6:30 to 8.
okay. And so we should all be there a little earlier?
Yeah, I'd say, I'll be there at 6, so if you get there, 6:15 or something, that's fine.
Okay.
So, those are all the main things I had to cover. I don't know if there's anything you guys wanted to add, or any points we didn't cover. Thank you for all the input on this. I'll tell you, it's been very helpful. And I think we're in.
Great questions.
When you look at all the,
looks
well, that was Ed
looks
mostly.
really good.
I sat down with him and said, okay,
Helpful to have somebody.
what are the other issues I'm not thinking about?
Yeah, an insider.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to take input.
Well, I think, you did a nice job of identifying the big issues in schools now and tying it to local
Yeah.
concerns. I thought that was.
That's how we got these people to come, because a lot of them said, in the response, they said, well, we got a lot of debates. I said, yeah, but most of the debates, the questions are very high level and generic.
Right.
We're going to ask maybe one or question along those lines, maybe the accountability one we should ask, or the security one. And to your point, Nancy, about security, I think the reason security still remains an issue is, you probably heard this, but on March 19th, there was actually a loaded gun taken to a school recently.
At one of our schools?
Yeah, not here, but in Gaithersburg. So parents still think about that. Also, the other thing is that SROs still are in people's minds.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Chuck Copeland is a former SRO.
Right.
And he's pretty upset that they got rid of it, not because it's security in the sense that they're police that are going to enforce something,
Right.
but because they are almost like a mental health assist for the kids. There's somebody as a trusted adult they can reach out to.
Right.
And I had personal experience with this in Gaithersburg. I was at Quince Orchard at a football game, and afterwards I found a wallet, and it's very clear it was a kid there, because the ID. So I went up to one of the security officers and I gave him the wallet, and immediately he said, "Oh, I know this kid." I said, "How do you know the kid?" He said, "Well, that's my job. I'm a security resource
Yeah,
officer."
just to like
I said,
know who.
he said, "I'm going to drive it to him. I know where he lives."
Well, that's nice.
I mean, that was.
Right, that tells you something, right?
But that's what these, a lot, not all of them were good. I mean, there's always one or two that aren't, but I think generally, they did something
Yeah.
really important.
Yeah.
So, and I know in my son-in-law's case, he was at Northwood, and a kid brought a gun, and the SRO had a relationship with the other kids there, and they told on the kid. So they're able to keep the gun from being brought to school. So, yeah, there's an argument to be made for that, I think. And you probably saw this too, there's a press conference 2 days ago, and they're talking about putting in new metal detectors now in school. So, I mean, the issue's still there.
Still there.
It's still there, and IDs too. All kids will have to have a school ID.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
But most school shootings happen from kids in those schools, so having school IDs for kids,
Yeah,
that's not necessarily going to do much to
no, you're right,
stop anything.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, anything else for the good of the cause?
That sounds great.
Everything just is moving along, good progress. Do you have any other assignments for us aside from being at these events and helping out?
Well, I think the next meeting, after the listening session in June, we're gonna really focus hard on taking the results of that and figuring out
Yeah.
what we put together for the Poolesville Day
Breakfast.
breakfast.
I was just saying, that was the next thing. I was just
Yeah.
saying, what about the
Okay.
breakfast? Everything for that?
I do think every year we've had a video, which really has been very helpful. So this year, and we've got a lot of good material this year for a good video. I think we ought to focus a lot on that too, and what that theme ought to be and what it ought to look
Yeah.
like, so.
Yeah, good.
And then who do
progress.
we have, do we have somebody speak like we almost always do?
Like a keynote
that's
speaker of
not
some kind?
From Fair Access, who would that be? So
Okay, we'll think
put
about
put your
that.
thinking cap on for that. So,
Okay.
all right, Niles, thanks for turning everything up.
Not a problem,
Thank you, Niles.
somebody,
Appreciate it.
of course.
Somebody make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thanks, Niles.
Thank you, Niles.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Niles.
Thank you.
I'll give you a call about the visit to the church.
Yeah, no, that
next week
sounds
sometime.
perfect.
You're around next
Yeah.
week, right?
Yep, I'm